So what are the factors which can affect transpiration rate? So there are two factors. Number one is the external factor, which are environmental conditions surrounding the plant. And number two is the internal factor, which are the structural adaptation, especially in the leaf, that will reduce water loss. Okay, so we're going to look at the first factor first, which is the external factor. Now, this is a table that describe and explain the external factors that will affect transpiration rate. Now, this is not mentioned in your syllabus, but it can be asked because it has to do with the movement of water based on water potential gradient. So you have learned about movement of water is due to a water potential gradient. So you learn this in your chapter 2 as well as chapter 4. So you learn this in chapter 4 when you learn about movement of molecules across the membrane, including water by osmosis. So here, question can be asked because when you talk about loss of water vapor from the leaf to the atmosphere, the movement of water vapor from the leaf to the atmosphere is driven by the water potential gradient. So therefore, question can be asked due to this basic information that you've learned. Okay. So the water vapor will diffuse out of the leaf down water potential gradient. So there's a gradient there. So that's why the water vapor can move out from the leaf. So down water potential gradient. Okay. So so how fast the water vapor will diffuse out from the leaf into the atmosphere? It depends on the differences in the water potential in the leaf, which is the substomatal air spaces, and the water potential of the atmosphere. So how fast the water vapor will diffuse out from the leaf to the atmosphere, it depends on the water potential of these two locations. Okay, so when the differences between the two is higher, then of course the water potential gradient between the two becomes higher. So therefore the rate of diffusion becomes higher. So therefore the rate of transpiration also becomes higher. Okay, so when the gradient, there's a steeper water potential gradient between these two locations, there'll be higher rate of diffusion of water vapor, there'll be higher rate of transpiration. So all the factors here you can explain using this theory on this right-hand side. All of them can. So you try to explain all of them using this theory here. Okay? So now let's start. So in the first case, temperature. So the first factor is temperature. Okay? Now you see, how do I explain? I use the word alter because temperature can increase and decrease. So if temperature increase and decrease, alter means it can increase or decrease the kinetic energy. So that's why I put the word alter here. But when you're asked to explain, you cannot say, oh, when temperature increases, it will change the kinetic energy of water. You cannot say change because change can increase or decrease. So you have to tell me exactly, does it increase or decrease? Can? Okay, so now let's say, for example, temperature increases, right, in the air. So what happens to my kinetic energy now of the water molecules? Januli.
Increase.
What increase?
Increase.
Increase, yes, correct. So when temperature increase, definitely the kinetic energy of water molecules increase. So instead of the word alter, you need to write the word increase, isn't it? So temperature increases, kinetic energy of water molecules increases. So what happened to my rate of evaporation? Sin yin thing.
Increase.
Increase, very well. Sin yin thing. +2. increases, isn't it? Right? So increase evaporation, and therefore it will increase diffusion. So when kinetic energy of water molecules increases, it will evaporate faster, and also it will diffuse faster, right? So it diffuse faster. So therefore, because it diffuse faster, transpiration rate will increase. So loss of water vapor from surfaces of land plant will increase. Okay. So what about my relative humidity? When I increase temperature, what happens to the relative humidity of the air? Samir.
Decrease.
What crease?
Decrease.
Decrease. Very good, Samir. Decrease. Why? Why? Please explain. Okay, I ask somebody else to explain, okay? So imagine in this space here in the atmosphere, originally, I have got 3 water molecules, okay? 3 water molecules in this space in the atmosphere. Now temperature in the atmosphere increases. When the temperature in the atmosphere increases, will my gas expand or not? This is such an easy question. Okay, the gas will expand, right? I refuse to give marks. So the gas will expand. Hang on. Right. You know, when you heat up the gas will expand, isn't it? So therefore, the space of the gas in the atmosphere will expand already. But the number of water molecules inside the space is still the same, you know. It's still 3 molecules of water here. But now these 3 molecules of water is occupying a bigger space already. So has the humidity increases or decreases? So now because of the gas has expanded, the water molecules must be, now imagine they're distributed evenly in this space. So now what happened is that my water molecule now will occupy a bigger space. So I've got 1 here and 1 here. So can you see the humidity of the air has dropped already? If you talk about this unit space, originally this unit space got 3 water molecules. Because of the temperature increases, the air expands. So the other 2 water molecules will go to wherever the air expands. So now my unit, the same unit, right, of air here has got less water molecules. So less water molecules means it's less humid, right? Humidity is actually equals to the number of water molecules. Wait, what am I saying? It's equals to the number of water molecules per unit volume of the air, right? So now the number of water molecules has dropped. So the relative humidity has dropped. So when the relative humidity has dropped, what happened to my water potential gradient between the leaf and the atmosphere? Ong Shu Min.
Water potential of atmosphere is,
so my humidity, hang on, so this one I have to explain here. So humidity, so it means that temperature has increased, right? Increase. So I put increase. So when temperature increase, humidity has dropped, isn't it? Okay, humidity has dropped. So humidity has dropped. What happened to my water potential of the atmosphere? Water potential of the atmosphere. What happened? Increase or decrease?
decrease.
Decrease, correct, because less water molecules per unit volume, right? Decrease, correct. So this one's correct. So if my water potential atmosphere has dropped, what happened to my water potential gradient between my leaf and the atmosphere? What happened to my water potential gradient between the leaf and the atmosphere? That means the slope. Gradient means the slope, isn't it? Is a slope steeper or less steep? Water potential gradient. Shh. Hoshini.
Less steep.
Less steep, Hoshini. Hang on, I'm looking for your name. Where's your name? Hoshini. Hoshini, where are you? Here, okay. Is it less steep? Okay, this one is where we need to check, okay? We need to check. So the best way to check is use mathematics. So this is the leaf and this is the atmosphere, okay? Now, there's always a existing decreasing water potential gradient from the soil to the root to the stem to the leaf to the atmosphere. That's why water can go up the plant, right? So we will always assume basically there will be a decreasing water potential from the soil to the root to the stem to the leaf to the atmosphere. So therefore, comparing water potential to the leaf and the atmosphere, I must say that the leaf must be higher than the atmosphere. So let's say, for example, if higher, to make it easy, I put, let's say I put 3 kilopascal as higher, can or not? And then I put here, this one is 2 kilopascal. So slight differences, okay, slight differences, 2 kilopascal, okay? So can or not? Everyone okay with this? Because originally there should be a less in the atmosphere. Now, what happened is that because the temperature has increases, right? Temperature has increases, humidity in the atmosphere has dropped. So that means water potential of the atmosphere has dropped. So it has dropped from 2 kilopascal. If I drop, so I put it, drop slightly, 1 kilopascal. So now you tell me, the water potential gradient between the leaf and the air after the water potential has dropped, is the gradient steeper or less steep? Hoshini? Oh, not Hoshini, right? I must ask another person, right? Okay. You type your answer lah. You type your answer. I give 2 marks. Steeper. Lau Huyen say it's steeper. Lau Huyen. Correct. It's steeper. Correct. It's obviously steeper, right? Because you see between 3 and 2 and 3 and 1. Of course, 3 and 1 is steeper than 3 and 2, isn't it? If you draw on your graph, also the same thing, right? From 3 to 2. So this is 0.3 to 2 versus from 3 to 1, you know. So of course, 3 to 1 is steeper, right? So can you see, if you're not very familiar, you just use the value here to compare straight away, you know already. Then the the water potential gradient has become steeper. Steeper means increase or decrease. Steeper means increase or decrease. Joyce?
Increase.
Increase, isn't it? I don't care whether my slope is steeper this way or my slope is steeper this way. It's still steeper, isn't it? Compared to my whatever original one here. Correct? From here to here or from here to here, it's still steeper, isn't it? In both directions, it's still steeper. Correct? I don't care whether between this and this is drop or between this and this is increase. I'm talking about the gradient here. I'm not comparing, or this is 3 and this is 5. Okay? Or this is 3 and this is 1. So comparing 3 and 5, of course, 5 is higher. When you compare 3 and 5, you're only comparing water potential of the leaf versus water potential of the atmosphere. So you're comparing 3 and 5, of course, 5 is higher. But I'm not talking about water potential. I'm talking about the gradient. So when I talk about gradient, I'm talking about the slope here. The steepness of the slope is gradient. Just remember that. Okay? The steepness of slope is the gradient. Right? So comparing 3 and 1, of course, 1 is lower. We can talk about water potential. But if I talk about water potential gradient, I'm asking you for the slope, the steepness of the slope. So you have to tell me the steepness of the slope is steeper. Right? I don't care the 1 is less than 3, but I'm not talking about water potential. I'm talking about the gradient. So this is where you need to really make a big difference between when I ask you what is the water potential versus what is a water potential gradient. It's totally different thing. Okay, can I? So I hope that this explanation will make it very clear for you how to look for what is water potential gradient, how to find it out. Is it steeper or not? So that's why this topic, even though it's not in your syllabus, it actually revolves around the very basic principle of movement of water is driven by water potential gradient. So you need to be able to work with it to know has the gradient increases, has the gradient decreases when certain factor changes. Okay, right? So very good. So let's look at the wind speed now. So we have done the humidity already. So let's talk about the wind speed. So when there's a wind that blows, right, through the atmosphere outside the stomata, it will blow away the water vapor that just go out from the leaf, right? So say, for example, this is your epidermis, so your epidermal cell, and this is the gut cell. You see, when I draw the gut cell, I don't draw it bean shaped one, because it's not bean shaped in this view. Okay, the bean shape, you can only see bean shape when you look at the gut cells from the surface of the leaf is bean shape. You take the bean like what bean you take? Cashew nut, right? Bean shape, right? And then you cut it transversely. You see, is the transverse section bean shape? Is never bean shape. So therefore, never draw bean shape for gut cell. Okay, when it's transverse section. So so if I using the number of dots to represent water potential, right, in the substomatal air spaces. So say, for example, I don't draw so many now. So I've got 3 dots enough. 3 dots because originally it's 3 kilopascal. Okay. Then here originally 2 kilopascal. Okay. So 3 versus 2. Okay. Now suddenly the wind come and blow. Why the wind come and blow? I don't know. It just blow lah. So when it blow away these 2. So let's say, for example, it blow away these 2. So these 2 water molecules are gone. Gone already, you know. So now what happened to my water potential here? It becomes 0, okay? So my question here, so the wind blows, it will remove the moist air, right? It will blow away the water vapor from here. So it blow away the moist air. So now it's replaced by dry air. So what happened to my humidity here? When the wind blows, what happened to my humidity of the atmospheric air immediately outside the stoma? Curti?
It will decrease.
Humidity will drop, isn't it? Very good. Humidity will drop. So when humidity drops, what happened to my water potential gradient? Because I write here changes. So changes means can increase and decrease. So how does it change? Increase or decrease? Water potential gradient? Joyce?
Increase.
Decrease, is it?
Increase.
Increase.
Yeah.
Increase. Yes.
Yeah.
Water potential gradient, the slope has increases because originally it's 3 versus 2. Now it's 3 versus 0. So 3 versus 2 and 3 versus 0, of course, this one is steeper, right? So water potential gradient has increased. So that will actually increase the diffusion rate of water vapor. And therefore, it will increase transpiration rate. Okay? Can you see the explanation is very systematic? So you just have to work it out step by step, then you will get to the correct answer. All right? Okay, so it's very easy. So use this method to explain. Now, what about the light? So when the light is present, the stomata will be open. So when the stomata are open, it will promote transpiration. It will be more water vapor that can move out from the leaf. So it will promote transpiration, more water loss. Now, water availability. Water availability will affect water potential gradient. Now, the water in the plant is obtained from the soil water. So the more water you have in the soil, that means the more water is available in the soil. So your soil will got more water, right? More water means higher water potential. So when you've got higher water potential, of course, the gradient of water potential from the soil all the way until atmosphere will be steeper, because if you got less water, the gradient becomes like this, right? Less water in the soil. Now soil got a lot of water, so the gradient, the soil water potential increases, the water potential gradient from the soil all the way to atmosphere increases. So when the gradient is steeper, right, there'll be higher rate of diffusion. Therefore, more diffusion means more transpiration, means more water loss. Okay? All right, so I hope that with the time that we spent to explain this one in more detail, so whatever factor that's given to you and how the factor increase or decrease, how it will affect the water potential of the atmosphere, how water potential will change, how transpiration rate will change. Okay, Ken? So this is a very good revision for you to learn how to describe the movement of water vapor in this case here. Okay, so now we're going to look at the structural adaptation of the leaf to reduce water loss. So what the leaf can do in terms of its structure in order to reduce water loss by transpiration. Number one, by changing the leaf surface area to volume ratio. So in changing here means the leaf have to reduce its surface area to volume ratio to reduce water loss. Now, the reason is this. Usually when you see the leaf, right, this is what you see, right? You only see the leaf and you cannot see the stomata because it's very tiny. But if you put it under the microscope and then you look at the leaf, you will actually be very surprised that the leaf seems to be perforated with stomata. That means a lot of pores in the lower epidermis because a lot of stomata. So you can imagine that the larger is the leaf, the more will be the stomata. So therefore, there'll be more water loss from the leaf, isn't it? Okay, so the higher, hang on. So the larger is the leaf surface area, the more will be the number of stoma, the higher will be the transpiration rate. And also the higher there will be a cuticular transpiration also will be higher because more surface. More surface will be more cuticle, more stomata, so more transpiration. So how does the plant reduce water loss from the leaf? Is it has to reduce the surface area of the leaf. So there are two ways I will describe how it reduces the surface is that the size of the leaf will be so small until it's like a needle shape like this. All right. So usually you'll find this adaptation in the cactus. You know, when you see the cactus, right? You see the cactus, wow, very round, very big, okay? And then a lot of like spine on it, right? A lot of spine on it, okay? So this enlarged portion of the cactus is actually the stem that is succulent, filled with water. So it stores a lot of water inside it. And then the leaf has become so tiny that it looks like a needle. So that will reduce surface area for the loss of water. So this is one way. So the leaf has become so small that it's needle-like. Second way is the leaf is still there, but the moment there's the condition of the environment can cause a lot of water loss, right? The original leaf, which is like this, which is open, will start to roll up and becomes like this. What am I drawing? No, cannot. It will not become like this. Okay, drawing error. It will become like this. It will roll up. The leaf will start to roll up like this. Okay, so this is bottom part. So the leaf will start to roll up like this when there is the factor outside there becomes too hot, too dry, okay, too windy. The leaf will roll up. So this is called roll up. Okay, so like you take a piece of paper and you go and roll the paper. So you see it's like roll up already. So that will actually reduce the surface area. You see this part here, which this part here, the inner part of the row leaf has got a lot of stomata. So you reduce the surface area that's exposed to the wind. Can you see that? So it will not, the wind cannot blow this part and remove the water vapor from here. So it will roll up to reduce the surface area of the leaf that's exposed to the air. Right? So these are the two ways. One is becomes very small like needle, And second way is it will roll up. So that will reduce the leaf surface area. Okay. Next, cuticle thickness. So you can increase the thickness of the cuticle to reduce water loss because cuticle itself reduces water loss. So the thicker it is, the more it will reduce water loss. Okay. Now, stomata location also will affect water loss. So usually you can find that stomata are found in the lower epidermis, not upper epidermis, because when the water evaporates, it goes upwards. Okay, when the water evaporates, it goes upwards. So therefore, usually stomata is found at the bottom because that will reduce the number of water vapor passing through the stoma because the water vapor tends to move upwards, right? And then I will talk about these two later on, the location of stoma, okay? Now, stomata number also will affect water loss. The more the stomata, the more the water loss, because 90% of transpiration occurs in the leaf. So you want to reduce transpiration in the leaf to reduce the stomata number. Okay? Air spaces. Air spaces will also promote water loss from the plant, from the leaf, because of two reasons. Because of two reasons. When you got a lot of air spaces, reason number one is that when you have a lot of air spaces in the leaf, you're going to increase surface area of the mesophyll cells facing the air spaces. So that will actually promote evaporation. Evaporation. So when the leaf has got a lot of air spaces, that means there are a lot of air, there are a lot of surface of the mesophyll cell that's facing the air. So that actually increases surface area for evaporation of water. So that actually increases loss of water. Okay. Then after that, when the water evaporates, becomes water vapor. So water vapor, that means water in the form of gas, can diffuse across the air spaces, then out of the leaf. And this diffusion is faster than water diffusing, water H2O in the liquid form, diffusing by apoplast and symplast pathway. So water in a liquid form, the diffusion of water in the liquid form is definitely slower than the diffusion of water in the gas form, because water in the gas form got higher kinetic energy. So therefore, movement of water through the plant by movement of water through the cells by apoplast and symplast pathway is slower than movement of water vapor through the air spaces. So when you want to reduce water loss, you have to slow down the movement of water. So therefore, when there's less air spaces and more cells, it will actually reduce water loss in that way. Okay, so air spaces can cause water loss because of number one and number two. Okay, so when a plant wants to reduce water loss, it will not have any air spaces at all. Very interesting. It will not have any air spaces at all in the leaf. Okay, so sclerenchyma, then it will have got a lot of sclerenchyma in the leaf, because sclerenchyma is the cell other than the xylem vessel element which has got lignified wall. So when the wall is lignified, it will reduce water loss. It does not prevent water loss. It will reduce water loss. So therefore, now instead of leaf having a lot of palisade mesophyll, spongy mesophyll, they will add a lot of sclerenchyma near to the epidermis to reduce water loss. Okay. Trichome or hair. Trichome or hair is a hair-like structure that's found in the epidermis. Okay, so let's say, for example, you've got the gut cells here, and then you've got another gut cell here, and then this is the epidermis. Okay, this is the epidermis. So when the water vapor diffuses out from the cell, then when the wind blows, the water vapor will be gone, and then this air here becomes very dry. So they will promote more loss of water vapor. Okay, so therefore, there'll be a special structure that is formed at the epidermis to reduce to block the wind. So this additional hair-like structure that's formed out of this plant, and maybe, sorry, not a plant, out of this epidermal cell. So this structure here is called the trichome or hair. Okay, trichome or hair only. You cannot say that this is a needle, you will not get mark. You cannot say this is a spike, you will not get mark. What else you will write? I don't know, needle, spike, what else? No, so needle and spike not acceptable, only trichome and hair are acceptable. Okay, now trichome can be an extension from the cytoplasm of the leaf. So let me erase this one. Okay. So trichome can be an extension from this epidermal cell. So it's part of the epidermal cell. It can be like this, one way. Second way, it can be a different cell. Third way, it can be made up of a few cells. Fourth way is, even bottom here is made of 2 cells. All right, so there are many, many versions of trichome, but just know that it is an extension extending out from the epidermis that looks like hair and is supposed to actually block the wind so that it can trap the humid air in this space here outside the stoma so that this water vapor will not be blown away by the wind in order to maintain the water potential here to be high so that there will be low water potential gradient. Water potential gradient will be not so steep between the substomatal air spaces and here. Okay? All right, so this is a table which I've given to you in your notes, which also not only explain the adaptation to reduce water loss in the leaf, but also in other parts of the plant as a general knowledge, right? So this is general knowledge because your syllabus, you only need to know adaptation of the leaf, okay? Now, this is stomata location. Now, you see here, these 2 gut cells, right, are not located in the same level as the epidermis. So in this case here, we say that this is the sunken stoma. Sunken stoma because the stoma is the space between the 2 gut cells, so it's a stoma. So the location of stoma is sunken into the leaf. So it's called sunken stoma. It's not aligned with the level of the epidermis. So because of the sunken stoma, even without these 2 hair, can you see this area here of the air, right? This area of air is actually blocked by these 2 epidermal cells so that when the wind blows, it cannot blow this region here. It cannot blow this region here. So whatever water vapor that is here, it will not be blown away by the air. So that will maintain the water potential here. It will not reduce water potential. Okay? So this is called sunken stoma. Now, in this case here, you cannot say this is sunken stoma on the right side because you see the gut cell is at the same level as the epidermal cells. So the stoma is also at the same level as the epidermal cells. So this is not sunken. But what is sunken is actually the epidermis. The epidermis is the one that is going inwards, right? So this is called epidermal depression. So you see that suddenly there's a depression inwards of the epidermis. So this epidermal depression, so because of the epidermal depression is going inwards, it will cause a space that is formed here that the wind cannot blow to. So this space here is called the groove. So there's a groove here. So the stoma will be hiding in the groove away from the leaf, away from the wind. So this groove has got a function of enclosing the humid air and then the wind, blocking the wind so that the water vapor will not be blown away by the wind. Okay, so these are the 2 locations of the stomata that can reduce water loss. So let's look at the terms xerophyte. Okay, we are learning about the structural adaptation of the leaf of xerophyte. So xerophytes are, xero stands for dry. Okay, xero stands for dry, phyte stands for plant. So plant that lives in a very dry area. Now, what is the name given to a plant that lives inside the water? If it's not xerophyte, What phyte is this? You're open to the floor. You're type your answer. Plant that live in water is called what phyte? Yeah? Hydrophytes. Yes, generally correct. It's hydrophyte. Good. Joyce just now got point or not? Joyce, just now do you get the mark? I've not added you the mark. Joyce, is your... Do you manage to get the mark just now?
Yeah.
Okay, give you 2 points. Okay, generally 2 points, correct. Hydrophytes, very good. What about a leaf that live in a normal condition like outside our house in the garden? What phyte are they? Hydrophyte means a lot of water. Xerophyte means no water. Then medium level of water is called what phyte? What phyte? Don't fight, ah? Okay, type your answer. Nobody is fighting really. Hey, try lah. Who knows whether your answer is correct? Just try. Yes, Kati, correct. Mesophyte. Well done. Mesophyte. Kati. +2 marks. Yes, mesophyte. Right? Meso means middle, isn't it? Right. You remember in plant, all the cells in the leaf that is sandwiched between the two epidermis is called mesophyll. So that means in the plant, we use meso to represent middle. So mesophyte means medium level of water. Okay, a plant living in an area with medium level of water. Right? So xerophyte are plants that are adapted to live in arid. Arid means very dry condition. So I want to introduce you the term arid so you know it's very dry condition. So therefore the leaves are adapted to reduce water loss, like marram grass in this photo here. So in this photo here is marram grass, right? They are the beach grass that you can actually see when you go to the beach, and their species name is called Amophilia. Okay, so remember when you write species name, you need to underline the genus name and the specific name. But the spaces between these two words, you cannot underline one. Okay, so that's the format of writing species name. Okay, when I type it, I will not underline. When I type it, I will italize it. So that's why you see here is italicized. This is the official format of typing species name. But when you write in handwriting, you must underline. Okay, so this is the marram grass where the leaf has already rolled up. So can you see the leaf already rolled up? And then can you see there are lots of trichomes in the inner surface, right? The inner surface of the roll leaf. This is outer surface, this inner surface. A lot of trichomes, and there are no air spaces inside the cell. You see the entire leaf, inside the leaf, you cannot find any air spaces one. So these are all the adaptations to reduce water loss. Oh my God, this is upper epidermis and this lower epidermis. Yeah, correct. Because when the leaf is exposed to the air, it's like this, right? And then when the leaf rolls up, it becomes like this. So the upper epidermis is the one that has got a lot of stomata. Right? It's the lower epidermis that's facing outside now. So this is correct. Okay, it's correct. So this is a very special feature whereby in this leaf, it is the upper epidermis that will have got a lot of stomata because the leaf will roll up, and then therefore now the stomata are facing the space that will be enclosed by the leaf, so that will reduce water loss. So this is a very special condition here. Upper epidermis, a lot of stomata. So this is a higher magnification to zoom in and look into the leaf. Can you find any air spaces? Cannot, right? So that reduces water loss. You see a lot of trichomes, right? A lot of trichomes here, right? Because why? Because stomata are found in the upper epidermis. So all the trichomes are also found in upper epidermis. Okay. And then can you see that a lot of these cells where the wall are lignified? So all these cells are the sclerenchyma cell. Okay, they're all sclerenchyma cell because they want to reduce water loss, water movement from cell to cell through the apoplast pathway. So other than the necessary cell that's needed for photosynthesis, you see all these cells are green color because they got chloroplast. So therefore they're green color. So they are photosynthetic cells. So other than all these cells, they're photosynthetic cells, The rest of the spaces will be totally filled with the sclerenchyma cell to reduce water loss. So no air spaces also. Okay. Now there's one more thing I want you to pay attention to is, can you see the cells here at the point where the epidermis fold? Can you see this point here? The bottom where the bottom point where the epidermis fold. Can you see those cells are very big? And then the wall is very thin. All right. You can see this one very clearly. Only this one you can see. This one, not so clear and not so sharp. Okay. So these cells here are called the hinge cell. Hinge. Now, what is a hinge? You go to your door and ask you where is the hinge. It's the place where your door, right? Your door is attached to a frame. So every door has got a frame, right? So exactly where the door is attached to here, right? This part here, and also this part here, usually two. So this part here where the door is attached to the frame allows the door to open and close. So this two part here is called the hinge of the door, where it allows the door to move. So the hinge cells actually allow the epidermis to move. Okay, so my epidermis originally is like this. Okay, these are my epidermis. And then here I got the hinge cells of, oh dear, sorry. So I got a hinge cell, so I draw 3 large hinge cells, okay? 3 large hinge cells here. Oh, 1, 2, 3, okay? Then followed by my normal epidermal cell. So hinge cells are large cells with very thin cell wall, which tend to be able to lose water very quickly. So therefore, when the temperature is very high, when the humidity is very low, when the wind is very strong, and therefore a lot of water will start to be lost from those cells directly to the atmosphere. So when the cells loses water, it becomes slightly triangular shape. Okay, so it becomes triangular shape. So when it becomes triangular shape, what happened to my epidermis? Now this epidermis is here already, right? Now the other epidermis is there already. It's here already. Can you see it not? So it causes the epidermis to move in a different orientation, right? Move from originally horizontal to become a different orientation. So that causes the leaf to roll up. So first it will form the groove. So this is a groove, right? So when you see the entire leaf, so the whole leaf will start to roll up already. So it will cause the groove to be formed and then the leaf to also roll up. I think the groove originally is already there. It's just caused the leaf to roll up even further. Okay, so it's the hinge cells, when it loses water, it will cause the leaf to roll up. So this is a very important structure. Now, this is a diagram that I obtained from the old textbook, which describe all the structural features of adaptation of the marram grass to reduce water loss. So there's one more thing that I didn't mention is the cuticle. Can you see the cuticle here, which is a very dark, thick color line? So it's got very thick cuticle to reduce water loss. Here, can you see this outer region here? This outer region here, this is actually the cuticle is thick and wavy to reduce water loss. This one cannot see because lower magnification. You have to go very high magnification to see, but this in this case is very thick, so you can see. Now here you can see this transparent region as shadow, the shadow that's transparent and wavy. So this is called wavy and thick cuticle. Okay, you need to know how to describe not only thick, but in this case, thick and wavy. Thick and wavy cuticle. Okay, and then can you see the epidermis, instead of 1 layer in a normal leaf, now you got 3 layers of epidermal cells. So that means the water have to pass through 3 cells before it can go to the cuticle. So that will reduce water loss. And then your palisade mesophyll cells about 2 to 3 layers thick. So this is normal. And then you've got a spongy mesophyll layer. All right, so this is also normal. But what is not normal is that there's a groove here. Groove. And all the stomata of the leaves are all located in the groove. You cannot find stomata here in the area that's directly exposed to the air. So all the stomata are found in the groove because the groove will trap the moist air to reduce water loss. And then there are some hairs or trichomes in the groove also to further block the wind. So you say that, but teacher, the wind can blow this direction. Yes, of course the wind can blow. So therefore you got this hair to block the wind also. I don't care how the wind blow. The wind cannot enter my space. Okay, so can you see how wonderful it is the leaf is able to adapt to reduce water loss? And who designed this? The nature designed this. Is so wonderful, isn't it? It's amazing. So the nature design is so amazing that actually I do not know how it happened. Right? It just happened to be like this. So where are my gut cells? I cannot see any gut cells here, which is, I think, this is gut cell. Can you see not? Can you see the gut cells here? Right? These are the gut cells. Yes. Why? Because they're darker in color, because gut cells are the cells, because they're tiny, but they've got chloroplast. So the cytoplasm looks darker. Right? So these two are gut cells, definitely. These two are gut cells. But I think the stoma is closed. So that's why you cannot see the space inside there. Right? The stoma is closed. It can be stoma being closed on, okay? So these are the gut cells. One of the easiest way for you to identify gut cell is try to look for substomatal air spaces. So you see there's some air spaces here. All right. Usually immediately below this, there should be some air spaces, but here I don't find. I think there's some air spaces here. Okay, there's some air spaces here. So usually for me, I will look for substomatal air spaces first in order to look for location of stoma. Then after that, I look at the structure of the cell. This cell structure is different from the neighboring epidermal cell. It's smaller and it's denser in the cytoplasm. Okay. So I will give you another session which I will show you a higher magnification of this region of the cell so that you know how to identify. Usually we will do this in the lab. We will do this in the lab, but now it looks like we do not know when you're going to go to the lab, or probably you don't even have the chance to go to the lab at all. You wouldn't know. Okay, so let's see how it goes. So this is a partial question. We only have 2 minutes. Shall we do this? We'll do this together. I've got 2 minutes. So the leaf in the figure has a number of adaptations to reduce water loss by transpiration. So 2 of these adaptations are: number 1, there's a multi-layered epidermis. So I show you just now got 3, right? Then number 2, the stomata are only found in the depression known as the stomatal crypts on the lower surface of the leaf. Explain, so that means when they say stomata crypts, they're referring to that epidermis that curve inwards. But when I say groove, I'm referring to the space that's produced when the epidermis curve inwards. So the groove is the space, whereas the stomata crypts is the stoma. Okay, the stoma and the epidermis area. Now explain how a multi-layer epidermis and stomatal crypts will help to reduce water loss. 3 marks. Okay, let's look at the answer, okay? Okay, where's my answer? Okay, here. Multi-layer epidermis will reduce water loss by cuticular transpiration because the water has to pass through 3 layers of epidermis, right, before it can go to cuticle. So it will reduce cuticular transpiration because it increases the distance for diffusion. So very good. Has to pass through 3 cells. So increased distance for diffusion will reduce the transpiration rate. And also being protected from heat from sunlight. So the heat from sunlight will be absorbed by these 3 layers of cell. So there'll be less heat that will be reaching the mesophyll layer of the leaf. So that will reduce water loss. Okay. In the stomata crypts creates a moist air. Okay, ignore trapped water. You see, they do not want a student to say that, okay, stomata crypts trap water. It will not give mark. So in the stomata crypts, the air in the stomata crypt is more humid, okay, or it is more moist. All right. So it will create an area where the air in this area will be more moist or more humid. Okay. So ignore trapped water. They don't allow trapped water. So this will minimize the effect of wind. So the wind also cannot blow or minimize it. So it will actually reduce water potential gradient, or water potential gradient become less steep between intercellular air spaces and external environment. They also accept water vapor potential gradient. They also accept diffusion gradient. They also accept lower temperature reduces rate of diffusion of water vapor. Lower temperature because the heat is being absorbed by the 3 layers of epidermis. So there's less lower water temperature in the lower part of the leaf will reduce the rate of diffusion of water vapor. Okay. So it's good to look at past year question to see that, okay, we cannot write the word trap water. We need to say that, okay, this area, enclosed area, has got higher, has got more moist air, or is more humid. Okay. So your homework is to do the exercise for xerophyte that is in your notes. So there's one exercise where you need to answer the question, only one only, okay? So do this and pass up on next Monday by 12 p.m. to times. Okay, so that's all for today. The next lesson that we're going to cover is translocation. That will be